Hi, welcome to Attainable Green. I'm Jess, and today we're going to do an update on my Catasetums. Now, this is part 2 of my Catasetum update, and we're going to cover the orchids that are in the PET method. So the PET method is kind of a hybrid semi-hydroponic setup in that it has a reservoir of water at the bottom, and then there is bark and a layer of moss on top. So in this way, the roots of the plant are supposed to uptake the water and have enough moisture to stay hydrated even in the hot summer days. The first plant is the Catasetum tenebrosa crossed with Catasetum callosum. Now this plant has 2 bulbs and it has a little bit of sunburn and some dried leaf tips. I think this is primarily due to when I first had these plants, I put them in my humidity tent. And when they got too big, I moved them outside. And in doing so, I think it got a little bit of sunburn during that transition. There is a little bit of spotting throughout this plant, and it's due to happy sap. So basically, the sap is emanating from the leaves, and as the sun's rays hit it, it caused a little bit of this spotting to show up. It's not spider mites. I have checked many times, and this plant is well hydrated and it's not stressed. So it's just normal for these plants to create a little bit of that sap and cause a little bit of that spotting. So the next plant is the Mormodia Bcl Virus. And this plant is looking very healthy. It has a couple of dried leaf tips and a little bit of sunburn as well, but overall it looks fairly healthy. The third plant is Cloacedum crossed with Mormodia's Jumbo Bacia. Now this one has a very healthy growth, and it almost has a little too much sun because the leaves are taking on a little bit of a yellow tinge. The new growth is starting to bulb up, so you see that it's starting to fatten at the base and it's starting to look really good. The next plant is the Cloacedum Black Jade. Now this one has a really large growth, but it also got attacked by snails. So that's why you see there is some damage to the leaves. There's also a lot of spotting on this plant due to the happy sap. And once again, I know that it doesn't have any spider mites. It's just the happy sap creating this spotted effect. Now, the last plant is the Cloacedum Northen crossed with Mormodia's Mimi wide segments. Now, this has a really large growth, and it has a slight snail damage, but overall, it just looks really healthy. In fact, all of these plants are looking great. And for some reason, it's being patrolled by ants. I think that the ants and the Catasetums are creating a beneficial relationship. The plant is providing some food in the form of sap, and the ants are providing a bit of protection for these plants so that they aren't attacked by any other pests. It gets about 6 to 8 hours of sunlight every day, and the rest of the time it's in bright shade. I'm using Nutricoat slow release fertilizer for these plants, and I water it about every day, every other day. And I make sure to water not only the roots of the plants, but also the leaves to just wash off any extra sap so it doesn't accumulate any extra sugars and create other problems. So far, I noticed that there's not too many problems with my plants. There was some snail damage from the wet weather, and some of the leaves look a little worse for wear. But that's not a big problem. The other aesthetic issue is that their happy sap creates this spotting effect on the leaves. And looking on the underside of the leaves, there's no scraping, there's no silvering, and so there's no spider mite damage on that as well. It's still a little early for me to make a determination as to if the PET method is better than any other method that I'm using to grow Catasetums, but I did notice that there are some benefits. The first one being I'm using rocks at the bottom of the pots, which weigh the plant down. And that helps balance out the weight of the plants themselves, because as they grow and as they start to plump up, they might get a little bit top heavy. And especially if the bulbs aren't growing completely straight and they're growing kind of to the side, then it's easy for them to top over. So by having the rocks there, it just helps stabilize the plant. Second of all, I'm really loving the water reservoir. Even though I am watering them every day, or even every other day, I notice that the reservoir empties out really quick. So by the end of the day, the reservoir is empty. So these ones are very heavy drinkers, and maybe next year I might have to increase the size of the reservoir just so that it can get enough moisture and enough nutrients. So that is pretty much how my plants are doing in the PET method. And they're looking just as healthy as the plants in self-watering containers. But the ones in the PET are a little bit more advanced because they were the ones that came out of dormancy first. And so those were the ones that got experimented on. So some of these plants, as you can see, are starting to create pseudobulbs. And the leaves are just definitely looking very lush and very full. We'll see how it progresses for the rest of the growing season, but for now, that's how my plants are doing in the PET method. I'll also be going over how my other catasetums are doing that are potted in regular sphagnum moss, and then we'll kind of do a comparison with that in a later video. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, Attainable Green, for all the latest updates, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Bye!